Simon Cowell, the man whose name once echoed power, confidence, and perfection. The man who could shatter dreams with a single raised eyebrow or make a star with a single yes. His voice commanded stages. His judgment shaped generations of talent, and his presence defined television itself. But tonight, at 65, beneath the calm smile and sharp suits, there's a silence few can hear, the silence of a man remembering how much it once cost to build an empire. He walks through the empty studio, the same stage where thousands once stood trembling before him. The spotlights are off now, the seats are empty, the air heavy with memories. He runs his hand along the judge's table, that iconic place where decisions were made and legends were born. "Funny," he whispers, "how the applause fades faster than the echoes in your heart." The world knew Simon Cowell as the tough one, fearless, unbreakable, brutally honest. But what they didn't see were the nights he stared at old audition tapes long after everyone left, the moments when silence was louder than the cheers. Perfection, he once told himself, is the only way to be remembered. But perfection comes at a price, and that price is loneliness. He takes a seat in the dark, eyes fixed on the stage. His mind drifts to the contestants who never made it, the ones whose dreams he ended with a sentence. Sometimes he wonders where they are now. Did they forgive him? Did they understand that behind the harsh words was a man terrified of failure himself? He laughs quietly. "If only they knew," he says, "how much I wanted them to win." For a moment, he picks up a microphone, the same one he once used to change lives. His reflection stares back from the screen above the stage, older, softer, wiser. "You did good, Simon," he murmurs, but there's a hint of doubt behind the words, as if he's still trying to convince himself. Outside, the rain starts to fall, tapping against the glass like a soft applause from the universe. Simon tilts his head, listening, his mind full of memories, the first talent show he created, the voices that moved millions, the laughter, the chaos, the triumphs, and the heartbreaks. He whispers, "It was never about the fame. It was about finding something real in a world full of noise." The lights flicker, and he looks up, smiling faintly. The empire he built still stands, but inside, the man who built it is learning something new, that true greatness isn't in the applause, it's in the heart that dares to keep believing after the music stops. And if you're watching right now, maybe you feel that too. Maybe you've chased something so hard you forgot why you started. Simon's story reminds us all, success means nothing if you lose yourself in the process. If this moment touched you, if you still believe that kindness and honesty can coexist, honor Simon's journey by subscribing, keeping his story alive, and letting this reminder echo. Greatness isn't about perfection, it's about purpose. The camera lingers on him as he looks toward the empty seats, eyes glistening in the dim light. He smiles, a faint, human smile, not the judge, not the mogul, but the man who once dared to dream. The man who, even in heartbreak, still believes in the magic of second chances. And as the lights fade, one question remains for you, the viewer. What would you do if your own stage went silent? The rain outside hasn't stopped. It falls harder now, tapping like a soft rhythm on the window. Steady, constant, almost like applause from ghosts of the past. Simon Cowell sits still, lost in thought, his reflection mirrored in the glass. "Funny," he murmurs, "how the world changes, but the mirror doesn't." He sees not the man who once ruled television, but the one who quietly questioned if it was all worth it. The fame, the pressure, the sleepless nights, the endless search for the next big star, while his own light flickered behind the scenes. He remembers the first time a contestant cried after his critique, not because he was cruel, but because he was right. That moment haunted him for years. "Honesty hurts," he says softly, "but lies destroy." That's what he always believed. But as the years passed, he began to realize that truth and compassion were never meant to be enemies. They were meant to dance together, even in the harsh spotlight of judgment. He rises slowly, his footsteps echoing across the empty studio floor. Every sound feels heavy, like the weight of time pressing on his shoulders. His hands brush over the old posters on the wall, faces of artists who made it, faces of those who didn't. Each one tells a story, a reminder that behind every no, there was a dream fighting to survive. He stops, looks into the camera, as if speaking directly to you. "You," he says quietly, "the one watching right now. Maybe you've been told you're not enough. Maybe someone, maybe even someone like me, told you to give up. Don't. Because the truth is, every rejection carries a hidden blessing. Every ending hides a beginning." He takes a deep breath, eyes glimmering with something between regret and peace. "You know, I used to think control was power, that being untouchable was strength. But now..." He pauses, looking up at the old stage lights. "Now I understand. Real strength is being able to feel, to love, to fail, to keep going anyway." He walks toward the center of the stage, stands beneath the faded lights, and lets the silence wash over him. "This," he whispers, "this is where it all began. And maybe this is where it begins again." A soft piano melody begins playing in the background, one of those hauntingly beautiful tunes that feels like a memory. Simon smiles faintly. "If I could go back," he says, "I'd tell my younger self to listen more, to forgive faster, to believe that kindness isn't weakness, to remember that every soul that steps onto this stage is already brave." He turns to the camera one last time, voice trembling slightly. "If my story moved you even a little, honor it. Honor the years, the lessons, the pain, the laughter. Subscribe, not just for me, but for every dreamer who ever stood here believing they could make the world listen." He exhales slowly. The lights dim, the camera fades out, and as the sound of the rain softens, one last line lingers in the air, a whisper meant for every heart that's ever felt unseen. It's not the applause that defines you. It's what you do when the world goes quiet. The studio is dark now, the lights dimmed, the echoes gone. Simon Cowell stands alone in the center, surrounded by the ghosts of applause that once shook these walls. He closes his eyes and listens not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet beat of his own heart. "It's strange," he says softly, "when you spend your whole life trying to be heard, and then you realize silence can be the most honest sound of all." He walks slowly toward the empty seats, his steps steady, almost graceful, the weight of years softened by understanding. The fame, the power, the headlines, they all fade, leaving only the man behind them, still searching for meaning. "I used to think I was building a legacy," he says, "but maybe what I was really building was a reminder that no matter how high you climb, you should never forget the ground that raised you." He sits down, takes one last look at the empty stage, and smiles. "Life isn't about being perfect," he whispers. "It's about being real. About making mistakes, learning, growing, forgiving yourself, and trying again." He glances toward the camera, eyes tired but kind, and adds, "So if you've ever fallen, if you've ever doubted yourself, remember this. Even the strongest voices tremble sometimes. Even the hardest hearts break. And that's okay. It just means you're human." He takes a deep breath, looks straight into the lens, and his voice softens. "If my story touched your heart tonight, if it reminded you that strength and vulnerability can live together, then do one thing for me. Honor this moment. Honor every lesson, every tear, every smile. Hit that subscribe button not just for me, but for every soul who still believes that no dream is too small, no comeback is too late." He pauses, his reflection glimmering in the faint light of the stage floor. "I spent a lifetime judging others," he says quietly, "but tonight I'm learning to judge less and love more." He smiles gently, not the confident grin of the man the world once knew, but something deeper, humbler, truer. "Thank you," he whispers, "for listening, for watching, for remembering that behind every voice there's a story. And behind every story there's a heart." He turns off the last light himself, leaving the stage in complete silence. And in that silence, his legacy doesn't vanish, it breathes. Because Simon Cowell's tragedy was never really about loss. It was about rediscovery, about remembering that even when the applause fades, the message remains. The camera slowly pulls back as the rain stops, leaving only the faint hum of hope in the air. The studio lights are off now, the rain has stopped, and the quiet feels almost sacred. Simon Cowell stands by the doorway, one hand resting on the frame, the other holding a single piece of paper, a fan's letter, handwritten, simple but powerful. He reads it slowly, the words trembling in his fingers. "You changed my life. Not because you said yes, but because you taught me to believe in myself even after you said no." A soft smile crosses his face. For a moment, the man who once judged the world finally feels understood. "Maybe that's the legacy," he whispers. "Not the fame, not the fortune, but the impact that lingers long after the spotlight fades." He turns once more toward the stage, eyes warm, voice gentle. "If you're watching this, thank you for listening, for caring, for remembering that even the toughest hearts carry kindness inside. Thank you for watching. Never forget your voice matters too. Subscribe now so you never miss our latest updates."